Get the hell out of here and go back to Mexico. That's where you go on. He says, you come back and say, we were treated pretty rudely. Good morning.
I have 9 a.m.
All right. Good morning. It's 9 a.m. December 19th. We'll call the weekly meeting of the Cudahy County Commission to order. We'll open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Gable, would you lead us this morning?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a couple of housekeeping things. If you have a cell phone, please turn it off or silence it, and if you do get a call you need to take, please step out into the rotunda area so you don't disrupt the meeting. This meeting is being streamed live, and so if you do wish to approach the commission or the bench here, you more than likely will be being streamed, just so you'll have that heads up. The other thing that I'd like to just mention, take a moment here. This is the last meeting before Christmas, and I want to wish all of the listeners, those viewers that we have out there, a very Merry and Blessed Christmas, as well as our employees. We hope the same for them, that they have a very Merry Christmas. And my fellow commissioners, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And Happy New Year. That being said, I'll
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I have a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
And a second, a motion by Hatton, second by Van Duzen. There will be one, item number 4 will be struck from the agenda. That plat was not ready for our planning and zoning meeting yesterday, and so we will not be hearing that. Also, is there anyone in the audience that will wish to have time with the commission during the open? Seeing none, are there any other changes or additions to the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Number 2, action to approve the
Move to
agenda.
approve is emailed.
We have a motion by Hatton, a second by Gable. No changes. Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Number 5, Highway Department. Rick is here. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning.
No snow to plow.
No snow to plow yet.
Sounds like it's gonna miss us now.
Yeah, it sounds like, I just looked at it and it's down to 20 to 30% chance of snow, so,
We like that.
yeah, I do.
And if anybody's wishing for a blizzard, just send them to the Dairy Queen.
You can jack that chair up if you like.
Oh, I'm fine. I don't have anything formal, any thing to sign or anything, just to let you know, I'm working on getting the bid letting for our supplies ready. I'll have a notice to bidders for January 9th with the bid letting tentatively set for February 6th. I'm also working on specifications for the building that was in the 100-foot, 60 by 100-foot building that was in my budget for this year. Putting together the plans for these bridge epoxy deck projects that I'm working on. And the crew's been out trimming trees, some trimming of trees in the towns where we plow snow, trying to keep the lights and the antennas and so forth on our motor graders by trimming their trees back. Some people aren't real happy with it, but if they want their snow plowed, that's something we have to do. Also another project, a bridge replacement project. I just started working on that. I've been working with the state on it for about 3 years, but it's just getting to the point now where we have to start looking at a type, size, and location meeting and so forth. That's about all I have. Getting ready for lunch today.
That's right. Any questions for Rick? Yes.
I just have one comment, Rick, and because we're streaming this live, I see a few hay bales sitting close to the road yet, and we've got a little snow coming in. Might be pertinent to get those moved.
And we have been working on some up in the Waverly area. We got some moved. I guess after the meeting, if you give me a call, let me know of specific location. But yeah, there is we did put a resolution together restricting they have to be out. I believe it's October 5th, but there's a date on it.
We've had October weather right up until the end.
Yeah, I agree.
Today maybe.
But yeah, Charlie, if you got specific location, give me a call and let me know.
I'll talk to you.
We'll take care of it. Okay.
I had a chuckle. I was in Mitchell Friday night, and I was driving down it was a pretty busy street. And there was 3 big round bales laying right in the middle of the street. And by the time the gymnastic meet was over, they were gone. But I was going to say, I wonder if they have a policy in Mitchell if they have to get the bales off the street.
We had a situation on the Bureau Road, County Road 9, east of town. Evidently, the bale load was too big to fit under the bridge. I got a call with some bales laying on the road, but by the time I got there, they'd already been cleaned up. So.
If it's price of hay makes a difference.
Oh, yeah.
That helps.
Yeah.
I did have a comment from a farmer yesterday, and that farmer noticed the county out trimming trees, and he just said, thank you. They needed trimming, and it's good to see the county out there working.
Yeah, it's like I say, we're obligated to try to keep the right-of-ways clean. It's a never-ending deal.
Yeah.
It's not too many years that you can trim trees in December.
No, it isn't. We'll take it.
Yeah.
And
And we're getting a pretty sizable pile out at the county-owned pit northwest of Watertown. We need a little moisture so we can burn the pile, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Rick.
All right, thank you.
We'll see you at the Christmas dinner. Milo is not here. So let's go on then. Let's go on to number 6, action to renew a contract with LSS Lutheran Social Service through June 30th, 2018 for acquiring law enforcement deflection services for persons with behavioral issues. And Sarah, would you step up? And between Sarah and Lee, would you share with us? We have a copy of the contract in the packet. It's about a 5-pager, including the statistics and the pricing and so on and so forth. So if you want to take a look at that as we follow along, is that what you're going to use?
Yeah, I have additional data that I was able to pull. It's the same contract, we're just asking to renew it. The original budget amount was for a year, and we did it for 6 months. We're just asking to continue that process. Did I get a copy? Lee, did you get a copy? No, that's what I'm missing.
Well,
Okay, yeah. Just a quick review. Hold on, I feel like a kid. Just a quick review about the Behavioral Health Deflection Program and what it is. It's a pre-diversion program. The idea is to reduce redundant interaction with law enforcement and emergency services, and also increase services for people with behavioral health situations. And the target population is behavioral health contacts that don't lead to arrest, or behavioral health contacts cleared on scene and not connected to services. Now, just to keep in mind, law enforcement don't always know if they're connected to services or not, so that's something that we kind of work to see if they are, to follow up, make sure, but on that. The goal and benefits is improved outcomes for people, to have early identification of people with mental illness, cost savings due to lower incarceration rates, improved officer safety, time savings throughout the criminal justice and treatment process. So the data that we, first the budget sheet, I apologize, I didn't put that up there. Just where we're running, they only charge us for the hours that are there, so we are running lower than anticipated in costs. The first start date was June 22nd on that, and it's been I want to say LSS has been great to work with. We tweak the program as we go, so is the Watertown Police Department. It's just anytime we find something that might work better, they're open and willing to try, or we're saying this isn't working, what can we do? It's been really very pleased with the efforts and the process that we're doing. Based on this information, the data is over the course of 18 weeks, we've had 74 clients referred through this program. So it ends up being about an average of 4 referrals per week. Out of those referrals, 12% are juveniles, and we aren't contacting those because you have to have the parents' involvement. We're not at that level yet, so those aren't individuals we follow up with. We have individuals that receive services of 9.5%. Now, on the next page, you're going to see the caseload is higher, but that's because they're not maybe ready for services. I'll talk about that when we get to the second page. Individuals that the information was invalid, pretty low, 2.7%. 16% already connected to services, including the CARE program. And so those aren't individuals we'd be working with. 28.4% was no contact. These are people we weren't able to contact. They weren't through letters, through calls, and stuff like that. So we anticipated actually that to be closer to 40%. So I'm pretty happy. Wow. We're pretty happy with that. We know each day that goes by, the longer, the less likely we are to connect people. Out of those that are currently trying to be contacted, 2.7% were in jail at the time of contact. 24% refused care, 4% were others. Kind of looked up that, like a couple of them had moved, things like that. So just things that we don't have on our drop down. So about 60% of them are juveniles, invalid, or unable to contact. So through those services, total services received is 12, and about 41% is mental health, 25% housing, 18% food, and 15% the psychotropic medications. So those are the services that they've been able to receive. So on page 2, we currently don't have any completed cases. What Sunny does with them is even if you're working, like, for example, we have one working with Voc Rehab, until that process is through, she's not going to close out the case, or if they need another service. So we might work out with one mental health, be a beginning service that they need, and that's all they can address, but is there also housing and different things that they have. So it might be that she's not contacting them as often, but just following up, like, as a reminder, hey, do you remember you have your appointment tomorrow? And then just how did it go? And do you need any help type thing. So at this point, the level of need is less as they go through, but we haven't completed any of those at this time. 10 active cases, like I said, that number is a little bit higher than those receiving services because we have a few people that they're willing to talk with Sunny. I don't have a problem. I do have needs, but I'm not willing to let you help me. So what she works with them is to try to get them to want to engage in those services. So that's why you see that difference in that number. So it's about 13.5%. She has currently census data, though I do believe, I thought she last said Friday that she has currently 13 active cases, and our caseload is 15. So we anticipate. She has 3 that she's currently actively trying to connect, and 1 that's either on a PC or hold. What we do with those PCs or hold, protective custodies, is just follow up, especially in the holds. We know that that can be a traumatic time. Maybe you didn't hear about your appointment, you're not sure, just to make sure, do you need anything? But the idea is to always not intervene or overstep with another agency. The whole idea is to pass that baton off, and so just following up to make sure that that's there. The average number of days from the case notes to receive the case notes from law enforcement counter is about just a little bit under 2 days. The majority of that's going to be probably because of the weekend, on the weekend calls. The Watertown Police Department has done an excellent job of just getting those through. Tracy does a fantastic. She's great to communicate, ask. I think there's a few, she'll just notice. And we've had 1 or 2 that somebody directly asked, like I think it was Lee McPeak asked for one to look at, that was just, you could just see the light bulbs that was a mental health case. And from the time that she gets the notes till she's actually able to make live contact, it's just a little bit under 6 days. That's when she's actually able to pick it up on the phone. If we continue the contract, we'd like to be able to track how fast she's able to make those calls from the time she gets. We're going to add that piece of data in there too. The average days until they're connected to service from the initial date contacted, that means not just setting up the appointment, but when could they get to the appointment. So from the time she was able to identify their needs, meet with them, and get that appointment and they actually attend is about 18 days. And that's just good information for us to know on that program. We had 2 needs that weren't met, and in this situation, both were self-barrier. Individual either refused either help or felt that the agency didn't like them, so just wasn't going to kind of work. So she's working through those. So then we move on to, as part of what we were looking at is some of the booking, the data and stuff. So the number of clients who referred that were booked prior to this program between April 2016 and October 2017. We had 32 of those. We had 1 individual that was booked in after the referral to the program, and that person met with LSS but received services. The numbers of these people that were booked in jail before being referred to this program was 20. The numbers that were booked in same time as referral was 11. I took a deeper dive into that just to see who that was. 4 were for mental health or protective custody. 3 were both mental health and arrest, which means they were on a hold but also had criminal charges, so the dual on that. And 3 were arrest only, and 1 was an ER and then arrest. That individual had overdosed but had criminal activity, so after released from the ER was arrested. The number of active cases that had previous bookings was 4 on that. The average or the frequency of calls mostly that we're getting is 1. We had 8 that have 2. I can speak to December and November. We've had some very significant ones where I think the one we probably had 6 at least, but trying to persons connected to services, but working on ways how can we help that person not call law enforcement but go to somebody else. So we've had this last 2 months too, pretty high need cases. The average duration of incidents for referrals, we looked at how long does it take the law enforcement. We know this is going to be a bit skewed because it's when their notes are taken and the officers are going in and saying, okay, you know, they'll go in and say wasn't able to finish notes, so we can get that time stamp on it. But what we did was we took out anything over 12 hours because the assumption is they're probably off their shift and they followed up later. So we resolved anything under 12 hours. So the average is 3 hours and 17 minutes. There were 1,048 bookings from June to October, and during that time, 74 referrals were made. So that's a frequency of 1 referral for every 14 bookings. We tracked the call types. 50 of them were dispatch mental holds. That means the officers knew they were being there to transport or work on a mental hold call. 20 were mental health call, which is any type of behavioral health call. 19 other type, 28 wellness checks, and 6 is self-initiated calls. So mental health holds hold the largest, with the wellness check being the secondary number on that. So then on the next page we have the primary field disposition. This is where they went. This is out of the 123 that we had. 65 of them were cleared on scene, so good job, law enforcement. That's their CIT training working right there. 40 of them were mental holds. 11 were criminal charge and arrest. 4 were other. I looked into that further. That's 3 were ER and 1 was a protective custody at the Watertown PD. 2 were voluntary transport. 1 we just was blank. We didn't have any information on that. So then we look at the location. We're looking to see where do these people go? Where are they at? Obviously the 65 cleared on scene, stayed wherever they were at. 31 went to the safe home, 16 to the jail, 7 to the ER, 2 were other, and 1 was Yankton Human Service Center. I know for sure the other one of them was a PC at the Watertown PD, and I don't recall where the other one. Then we took a little bit deeper into the suicidal. Let's just look at those that were.
What's the safe home?
It is
That's the room
crisis.
out at Serenity
Yeah,
Hills.
the room at Serenity
Okay.
Hills. Yeah.
All right.
Yep,
Safe room.
safe room. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Safe room, I'll
Okay.
change that. You're right. But that, they do take the bulk, if you guys ever, there's your data on that. But so we looked at just the suicide calls. These are calls that came in that were suicidal. 70 of those that came in, and that's about 56% of the referrals. 20 of those were cleared on scene. So just a little bit under 30% with CIT training we're able to get cleared on scene. That saves significant amount of times through the mental health agencies. 39 of those were placed on hold. We took a look to see where they were placed on hold. 3 were ER, 4 was the jail, 2 was other, and 30 was the safe home, or safe room. I don't know how I did that. I'm working on a different project.
Those are good numbers. Prior to the CIT training, those 65 probably would have been taken into custody for an evaluation. So I'd like to see those numbers.
Can just for the layman, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, for the layman, can you describe, maybe between the two of you, you could describe what cleared on scene means? Is that like?
That well, the call, however it came in, means that the individual was safe. The officer felt they were safe. I'll let Troy speak to CIT training.
Critical intervention training is basically the officer is specifically trying to recognize if the person is suicidal, if they need to be taken into custody. Through a series of questioning, they're able to help make that determination on whether or not they can be cleared right then and there, or if they have to be taken into protective custody to be evaluated by a professional. So
I guess the question is, how does the deflection program play into that? I mean, so the CIT, you have the CIT trained officer and the deflection program.
It's not part of the MOU that we had with the cities. We said we would track this for them because they've never had data on how well their crisis intervention. And if you ever move forward and you want to do a mobile crisis unit, here's some that tells you your numbers. Because the difference with the mobile crisis unit is the officer would call them instead of them doing that. This kind of gives you an idea. We never had anything but anecdotal of how many your numbers.
This is an answer to the data MOU with the city, which supports the deflection program.
Right, but it's the reason we're collecting it is able to collect it and capture is because of the behavioral health deflection program.
That's good.
So
great information to have.
We're using that program as a two purposes. One is to see what they are. We've often said we don't believe that the law enforcement gets enough credit for what their CIT training does or benefits. You know, what is it? Where is it at? We know it's beneficial, but here's some of your hard data.
I can think of at least 2 occasions this past weekend where we would have probably taken that person into custody for an evaluation that they were cleared on scene. So
I
it's
believe
handy.
Minnehaha has that mobile crisis unit. I think they're the first county to implement that.
Okay.
Yep.
Also, it would be interesting, those that were cleared on scene with the CIT training, are any of those repeat instances where that person has that happen again once they've, you clear them on scene? Then it would be interesting to know if that helps to that point, or if
those are
they
the ones
come back again. And
yeah, those are the ones we're calling, Ben. So I don't know if we could track. So you mean?
I'm sure there's a way to do it.
It's just, it gets trickier. We're saying the same thing in the whole question about mental health data in the jail is how do you, there's a time lag in figuring out, has this person been here before? So and then you're getting into privacy records and
Well, those are the ones we actually are following through on. This is a little bit, we were able to start collecting data in March from the police department, so this covers that. The program started in June. But those are actually the ones we are tracking. So we can tell you how many times they've called back following. So like, it'll start, you would kind of go back and look at those frequency of referrals. That would be under that number.
that could be some of those that went through the CIT, were cleared on scene, but then had a repeat instance happen.
Yeah.
So then we're talking about 8 that had more than 1 call or 2 calls.
Yep, and so to
And then
clarify,
0
that's
for
in the
3
June,
plus.
that's from June to October, versus your other data is March to current.
So on some of these, like the number referred is 74, that could be somebody being seen twice or 3 times or whatever? Or do
No,
you,
yes.
do you recount them, or they're all,
74 individual referrals, one person. So
Okay.
if they come back again, we count that as that same referral, but we would show that
don't-
they came back multiple
okay,
times.
so you don't add to that number each time you see that person again?
Right, it's one person.
And 74 pertains to the people that were referred to the deflection program?
Yes.
By the DAD. Okay,
Yes.
all right.
The difference is just that we started the MOU in March, so we reported the data from the
Right.
law enforcement part on that. June 22nd was the first day Sunny started, and so that's the information we have on that. But we thought it'd be interesting to track those others as well. It gives you all that. So, like I said, I know just November, December's information. We've got some that are just hitting the roof. Needless to say, so. On this, I didn't do a huge deep dive on the frequency and trends because we have only 18 weeks of data, but I thought this is really interesting. You can take a look. We can go into further, give you more information. Is Tuesday's the highlight at 7, but what we found was the highest number of frequency of calls, behavioral health calls, was Tuesday. So apparently Monday's a rough day. But anyways, we did Tuesday, and then you've got Friday and Wednesday being your second highest. It was just really interesting. I think some things that we'll want to question as we look forward: staffing, CIT training. The question becomes, well, why? What the curiosity of that? What could that be? Is it the time too was high as at 7 o'clock. I don't know what that is. We just all have indigestion Tuesday. There's a lot of binge drinking. It's by Tuesday you're kind of coming off of that. I don't know. It's just curious, but it was interesting. Caught
It's
me off
kind of a
guard.
decline from Tuesday through Thursday, and then Friday it spikes again. But Tuesday is the highest day.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's kind of like a binge, come off, binge, come off.
Are these folks that are already in the system? Could it have something to do with court sorts of things?
Could be.
That they-
7 o'clock at night generally on a Tuesday.
If they have to go to court
Yeah.
one of those days?
Try to dig into that.
Or there's a lot of work week left.
Yeah, it just caught me off guard. I
Who
did not
knows?
expect Tuesday, and I did not actually expect the 7 o'clock. So, like I said, we can go further. We just aren't into that, do a deeper dive. It's just we only had 18 weeks, Is it Tuesday at 7 o'clock, or what day is the highest on Tuesdays? And then as you get your months going into it, you can take a look at some trends. There just wasn't a lot. We just kind of did a real quick big preview with the 18 weeks, so thought that was curious.
Good stuff.
Do you realize there's an hour of the day missing there?
There it is.
Apparently nobody.
I was trying to get to 7 o'clock, and I
Well,
why
it's
is it not
24.
going?
Yeah.
5 a.m. is missing.
5 is missing.
No, 1400 is
Oh, but
missing.
five is missing too.
14, okay, no wonder.
It's only going to pick up
Okay.
where there's those days. I'll go. It's just a pivot table. We'll go
All right,
and double
okay.
check that. So,
I was
because
just
14's
I was
on.
trying to get to 7 o'clock, and I
I was just starting to do that, and there was no 5.
okay, all right.
So if there's no data for that hour, then
Okay, so it may not
But
be
it just
7.
didn't pivot it wouldn't have
Drops it
put
out.
it. It would
Yeah.
have just.
A
Okay, it's
lot
just
of
a quick
people,
pivot.
there's
So
no
with
such thing
2
as
of them
5 a.m.
missing, then maybe it's 5 o'clock instead of 7?
They start their day at about noon.
No, I think the
no,
day's the same.
Yeah,
The
will it
difference
throw-
is
will it
the
throw
pivot
whole
table
graph
won't.
off when
No,
you
it
put
just
those
won't pick up
okay.
if that's.
All right.
If you
Still
do the
7,
pivot,
yeah.
it just
Okay.
says, it just doesn't pick up that.
Not being picky, I was just trying to understand the graph.
It just doesn't pick up the number when it picks the data for it.
The big number to have on there is a 7 p.m. number.
We'll go double check that for sure. But that was just the last little fun. I thought it was kind of fun.
That is great information to have.
So just for people's understanding, it's a part of this, the initial data in this packet is about the deflection program and the referrals to the deflection program. And then after what you talked about at the end was the data that kind of supported that and where those calls came from essentially.
Yep.
So.
The initial is what the work is that the deflection program is doing, the diversion. But part of what the buy-in I believe we got is that we're going to help collect the data for law enforcement or the mental health community clinics, health clinics, is where are we at? let's take away the anecdotal. Where are we at? Where's the need? A little bit like Brenda was. First of all, Brenda, I want to say thank you for doing the 6 months to start with, because that really made it an intention to go back and dig. And if we continue the contract, which I hope we do, we've got some tweaks we want to make with our data to just even make it better. Throughout the process, we've worked very well. But the other thing is, so having that 6-month date really pushes you to that. But the other thing is, this tells us what Minnehaha did. They had tracked data for a while. When they first started their mobile crisis unit, they had an idea of when it would be most effective. They weren't full-time. They knew these are the few hours we could cover. So if we ever, something ever the county wants to move to, you're not shooting in the dark as much to say when it might be most beneficial to expand. Is there a need? That's always been the question, is there a need for it? Is there not? How are we doing? Where are people going? I mean, if you looked at the information, the safe room, they're doing a really good job. I mean, they do cover a lot. So how do you just, taking a look, and this is just a short month, it's hard to say, short time. As you look longer, you'll just have an idea, and maybe some trends. So maybe then Tuesdays we'll give our employees massages or court or something. I don't know.
All right, thank you for that report, Sarah. Let's go back to the item on the agenda, action to renew a contract with LSS through June 30th, 2018 for acquiring the law enforcement deflection service for persons with behavioral issues, and that number is $23,816.93, correct?
I have 29,867.
Oh.
That's what's left
Okay.
in our original contract. So
I see that.
if you look at the contract, it's not to exceed $29,867.
From the beginning of the year, from the beginning time.
12 months.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So we would still actually only have the 22,745
Okay.
left.
All right.
We're under budget, so I don't,
Okay.
I doubt we're under.
So we are doing just another 6-month at this time?
That was my request, unless you wanted to.
No, that's,
Okay.
yeah, that's what I
So we do have a request for 6 months, so you've heard the request, and you've heard the number.
I make the motion.
Motion by Gable,
Second.
second by Van Duzen. Any more discussion? Any other questions?
Just
And
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Good.
I think on that mobile crisis unit, a person could get, with Minnehaha County being much larger, like we'll follow our numbers, but we could always get some information from them as far as when they're operating, how it's going or whatever, if we would ever decide to go that route.
That's a few people. Is that more expensive than?
Well,
we're trying to do this with one person.
Yeah, first of all, I do work with them quite a bit. That's where I get a lot of information from a lot of those individuals there. But the other is actually something for us to consider, and actually Sioux Falls was considering that, is like a
Triage.
not a pilot, somebody in the car with you. So I'm forgetting what the name of that is. Instead of a mobile crisis unit, it's a mental health person in the car unit. Because actually, in the state of South Dakota, mobile crisis unit is one or more person. So actually, when, for example, HSA follows up on a call, if Carrie Johnson shows up, that is actually considered by law a mobile crisis unit. They could just track their hours. But there's where you can have a co-pilot person. That's something we might want to look at in a smaller county. I'm not sure. We'll say, because that's just the mental health person. So instead of the law enforcement having to take that call, they go on to that call to make sure the person's safe, and that mental health person is just in regular clothes is the one that takes it. Oh, co-responder, that's what they call it. Co-responder is something, and I visiting with Minnehaha back and forth, they're considering that too. That might be less expensive. It may or may not, but absolutely working with them. Pennington has theirs as well. Definitely learning from those that have already got the experience.
Well, and like if we can narrow it down to what times of the day are maybe
We have
more
some numbers
prevalent.
to look at now, which will be very helpful in trying to determine which way we need to go in the future. And in the meantime, it looks like this is serving, I know one purpose, is providing us information.
Well, and you're going to see, so for every hour, Brenda makes a good point, because every hour that you wait is less likely to get that person connected. That's why we knew we wouldn't have a high contact rate. So those 24% that refuse care, if you have a mobile crisis or somebody right on spot, you're going to increase crisis situations can increase someone's willingness to actually engage
When they're in a
service.
crisis.
So that's what we we were looking at too, is if this program could have met those, can have a high participation, we didn't anticipate it, but the sooner you connect the person, the more likely they are to engage in services, and you're always going to increase your effect. But this will tell us, what is that percentage, what is that number, what does that mean to our county?
Thank you.
Something
Any other
else,
questions?
Just another comment, this is kind of off, that triage, sort of, I don't know what I want to call it, that Minnehaha is trying is something else that, may benefit us too. If we end up having some of those numbers, that could be very beneficial. So that's something we may want to watch and dive into.
Commissioner Gable, you had a question?
Just,
They do.
so what line of the budget, what part of the budget does this come out of, the next year's budget?
It comes out
Is that
of
yours or is it
professional
the
services.
In the
Yes, it's
welfare
out of
budget.
So professional services and the welfare?
In the
okay.
welfare budget.
welfare care board.
Okay, so the motion that we have on the floor is to approve a 6-month contract with LSS for the amount, repeat that amount again, $29,000?
Not to exceed 29,000.
867.
What we have left would be
Yes,
22,745.
Because it's only for 6 months, that
Yeah.
29 was for the year.
Okay, any other questions?
So the motion is to approve the 22,745?
For 6 months.
Actually,
35.
the motion is to renew a contract for 6 months
This
with
is
the
what-
language that's inside in the contract.
Okay.
This was the 12-month allotted budget approved in the RFP to begin with.
All right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, guys.
Good job.
Let's go back to the monthly reports. Milo is here now, facility report. Thank you, Milo. Good morning. Thank you, Sarah.
I can stop down, I'll talk to you later. I mean, I thought they were so we can do it through each other.
Yeah.
I made 2. Yep. 2 is enough? There's 3 signatures.
Morning, Milo.
Okay.
Good morning. My Christmas present to you today is a report filled with unicorns and rainbows.
There we go. Good news.
Memorial Park, we have no issues to speak of today, and all is wonderful.
Shut down.
Ag building, all is well. Detention center, everything is smashing. Courthouse, everything is turning up roses. West Nile virus prevention, everything is splendid. We haven't had a mosquito for a month.
Yeah.
Steve's doing a wonderful job. Seriously, it's been a very busy month for everybody in our department. However, most of it isn't very newsworthy. So,
No
that's
news
what
is
I have
good
for
news.
you.
There you go. Do you have any questions for Milo? Anyone?
So you're beginning your move down to your new office to,
Correct.
and so,
And remind us where that new office is, Milo.
Right inside the front door.
There you go. Okay.
The move has been completed, moving the state's attorney's files
okay.
down to the old clerk of courts area, so the process has begun.
How's the Memorial Park sign coming?
It should be installed, if it isn't already installed, it should be installed this week.
Great.
Very good.
I haven't had a chance to drive out there yet this morning to see if they got it done yesterday.
Wasn't out there this weekend, so.
Any other questions for Milo? All right. Thank you, Milo.
Thanks,
We'll
Milo.
see you at lunch.
Okay? Actually, I won't be around depending on how you react on item number 13, I believe. Would it be possible to visit that?
Yes, let's do that. Travel request, item number 13, action to approve a travel request. And this is for Milo to go.
Yeah.
I don't have it in front of me.
It was
It was
emailed.
emailed to us.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
I emailed it to you.
I had it on my,
Should have made copies and I forgot.
That's all right.
Jail.
Going down to the penitentiary to pick up some mattresses for our facility.
Be sure and come back.
Okay. Hopefully they won't keep me.
Should we approve that now? or-
Let's take action
All
so he
right.
can get
All in
on the
favor
road.
indicate by saying aye.
Was there a motion and a second?
No, we didn't even make,
Oh, no.
I make a motion to
Oh, we
approve the
better do
travel.
that first, I
I'll
suppose.
second it.
All right, I got a
Who made the
and a
motion?
second.
I did.
Brenda. I got a motion and a
Lee
second.
made the second.
Yes.
Discussion.
We're bringing back just a dozen, kind of a,
And those are,
thing here. Yeah.
are those new mattresses?
From
Yeah.
Pheasant
They
Lane
actually
Industries.
manufacture them down there.
Okay, good.
Those are the ones about.
I think they're,
All right, thanks.
Thanks,
All in
Milo.
favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Have a safe trip, Milo. All right, now let's go on to item number 7, and that's action to declare real property taken by tax deed procedures surplus for future sale, and there's 4 of them, and there's a copy of them in your packet today. There's one, well, you can read that, there's 4 of them.
I'll make the motion to,
We have a motion by Hatton,
Second.
second by Waterman. Any discussion?
The purpose for declaring these surpluses so that we have it covered when it time comes to have a sale. We don't forget this step. It'll just make it easier 6 months down the road when we do have a tax deed sale.
And normally we have that in June or July. We haven't set a time for that at this point yet, but that's commonly known as the sale on the front steps of the courthouse. That's what that's known
Correct.
as. And there'll be plenty of warning ahead of time when these properties come up for sale. I did have a chance to view the one this weekend, and I would strongly recommend that we stay out of the bidding. We just go ahead and put that up for public auction. And I understand there is a interested party in that property already. We have a motion, a second. Any more discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Let's go on to item number 8. We have some computer equipment that we need to declare as surplus and have it destroyed. I'll accept a motion on that.
It's one computer in the treasurer's office.
Okay, so one in the treasurer's office.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Gable, second by Waterman. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Just a quick question, Mr.
Okay, go ahead.
No, so this is just an old computer that needs
Yes.
to be replaced? Okay.
Yes.
It's an old computer.
All right, thank you.
All right,
A new MacBook Pro.
one more time. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Number 9, action to approve claims for payment. You have a copy of the payroll.
And then we have another set of claims, just end of the
Yep.
year stuff to clear up also.
make a motion to approve those claims.
Let's do the salary claims separately.
Okay, we'll do them separately.
Make that motion.
So second.
All right, and we have a motion and a second to approve the salary claims. Any discussion?
Total salary claims are $526,186.54. That does include the annual longevity payments to employees who have the appropriate number of years. They receive anywhere from, the minimum is 100 after 6 years, and the maximum is 625 after 25 years. So with the number of employees who qualify, we're paying out $15,165 in longevity.
All right, thank you. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Now let's go to the claims for payment. We have some other claims. Those are in
The
a,
other claims total $33,837.61. I provided you with a list of the claims. Does anybody have any questions? We did get the claim, or the bill for our audit, which is $23,316. I don't know if that's the final. I told them to get as much to me as they could.
How much do we
Hopefully-
budget for that, Cindy?
We usually budget about $25,000, I think. So there are sufficient funds in the commissioner's budget, and that's why I'm paying it. If there weren't going to be enough, I wouldn't even run it through.
Right.
But
Did we collect enough for our Sioux Valley meeting here? I see that got up there pretty high, 1,040.
No,
and-
the host county is usually responsible for a portion of it, but we did
Sure.
collect,
It
we
wasn't-
collected $759 from the counties who attended.
So-
And we paid for 80 meals.
So about four.
Yep, so the remainder of the cost is due to the host county.
Question, Mr. Chairman, so
Yes.
the $80 one for the meeting, that is,
That was for the coffee,
The dessert.
the after,
oh.
Bars,
okay.
cookies.
the bars and cookies, yes.
At the
Yep.
commissioners meeting, okay.
Yes, and then, Lee, maybe you can explain the $2,203.50 for the catastrophic legal?
Yeah, okay. That's
You attended that?
Yeah, so I happen to be
Okay.
on the clerk board, so the catastrophic legal board. So essentially, that's kind of an insurance pool, for lack of a better term, where all the counties that want to pay into it. So I think every county except for maybe Pennington and Minnehaha are not part of it.
Could be, yeah.
But there were a couple large,
Very large
expensive
claims.
murder cases
Yeah.
in a couple of counties that sent that so they had to do another assessment to cover those.
I do
So-
have that report, too. Total claims were $474,814.10.
So they had to spread about
Wow.
$46,000.
So that, yeah, we get billed, is it quarterly or?
I don't remember. I don't know.
Maybe
how
it's
often.
annually we get billed,
it's
and then this 2,200 was the extra amount that we had to pay based on these claims. And like
I
you
think we-
said,
So that's
We
an
get billed
insurance
annually.
policy is
Lee
basically.
said there
what
were,
it is.
one was a murder trial,
There's two.
another was a rape and incest,
Yeah, I think
I
there was,
believe,
yeah, it was nasty stuff.
in
And so-
various counties, yeah.
And we've had to also use that in
We
the
haven't
past.
had any recently.
No, in the past.
In the
yeah.
past, yeah, in the
But
past,
this
we've
is,
been
no,
in
this
this.
is, I mean, I shudder to think, some of those bills you see, they have deductibles, it's a $25,000.
25,000 and
I
then
think it's another-
90/10?
I think it's 10%, you cover 10%.
Yep.
And then, so they're
Yeah.
pretty picky on some of the expenses, it's,
Yeah, they-
claims are,
I mean, juror costs supply, court-appointed
Yeah.
attorney costs supply,
yeah.
expert witnesses,
Yeah.
grand jury.
All right, good questions.
Yeah.
It's money well spent. It's an insurance policy
it's a-
for a county.
It is,
Very much so.
definitely.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Van Duzen, a second by Giebel. Any more questions? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Number 10, action to transfer commissioner's contingency.
I have nothing for number 10. We've paid all the bills. Salary is through. I don't anticipate doing any more commissioner's contingency this year unless something would come up in the next week.
How about automatic budget supplements?
Nothing for that category either today, and I do not have any personnel changes either.
All right, so now we're down to 13, and we did take care of Milo. Do we have any others? I have none.
That was the only travel claim I had, a request.
All right, so now we're down to old business, mature business. Is there any old business?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I guess I can cover the little bit of.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, the CCJAC meeting last night. So, two things happened yesterday regarding the courthouse remodel. One was, see if we can get it on the screen here, but I didn't quite prepare it. But the architects were in town, so we had two architects from BKV, Bruce Schwartzman and Anthony Enright. And so we continued the next step of discussions to go through the details of the remodel for the future additional jury courtroom and the clerk of court space. So went through that. I have copies of the floor plans for folks to look at, and then and that was a very productive discussion. So they talk about things like the flow of how things are going to operate in the courtroom, how customers are going to come into the clerk of court space, and then all the security concerns that go with that process. I think that probably the most significant thing that, and this kind of goes over to the CCJAC meeting that evening, was we started talking about the need for more security in the courthouse, so a security checkpoint basically. And the reason that kind of came to our attention is, as we've been going through this process, the sheriff's noticed that his guys are being called up to the courts, the 2 courtrooms that we do have, to provide security. Sometimes that's wanding, so checking people for metal basically, and then providing security in the courtroom, so a bailiff. And that's gone from 20 hours to about 60 hours a week sometimes, and so that's a significant got his attention. And then with the 3rd courtroom, which we need to do in order to cover the caseload, we may end up compounding that problem. So the question is, should we do a central security checkpoint somewhere in the courthouse so you only need to use 1 deputy, and so you save a lot of operational costs to do the security part of it. So that's the question. So and let's see if I can try to pull up a diagram here, if I can do that. It works. See if it works. There we go. Yeah, here's the diagram. If you look at the screen, you can see what kind of we're talking about here. And so this is just to make people aware. So the idea, we don't want to. Some courthouses they'll close off all but 1 entrance to the. You see this around the country. They'll close up all but 1 entrance to the courthouse, which we don't want to do if we don't have to. So this plan, if you follow the green arrows, you'd see how a member of the public would come in. So this is the north door, the front door of the courthouse. You go in the front, but you have to enter through the right side, so those double doors once you get past the foyer. These doors would be locked. This would be Milo's maintenance supervisor office over here, would be going into the jury suite in the courtroom complex. And then there would be a glass partition here, so the staff could fob in and go on into their place of work in the courthouse. Here would be, the public would be over here. They would have access to the clerk of court space and the state's attorney without going to, how should they be thinking about using that space for the preliminary? But that was kind of the flow of the CCJAC meeting last night. And the audio should be online if people really want to listen to it. We can actually get done in about an hour. The audio should be online later today. So.
Okay, any questions for Lee? All right, thank you, Lee.
I attended the executive meeting. I don't know if we want to do that during the open or old business. That was for our South Dakota County official or county commissioners executive. Just give you a
yeah, it's funny. So it's kind of administered, I think, kind of like an insurance pool.
Yes, through the association.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funding that they are going to be, like you say, the administrators of. So
would it
working
be like
through that.
Catastrophic?
It's like that, but it's not.
Kind of like that,
but
it's
the funding comes from the legislature.
Yeah. The funding isn't coming from a pool from the, any of the counties. It's coming from the state, but it's kind of like we are the administrators of that.
SDACC will administer that.
Yep.
Yes.
All right, any other business? Anything else? Let's go on to new business then. Any new business? Anything new? Any new business? We will have the last meeting of the year next Wednesday, the 27th.
At 11 a.m.
At 11 a.m. So
Remember that.
the news media, be aware of that. All right. Seeing nothing, anything for the open?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
two things that come to mind. One is just a reminder for the zoning office. We have that how do you feel about zoning survey that's on the main countycottington.org webpage, so people can go fill that out, and I know they'd like to get the responses by the end of the year. And that'll help tee up our conversations or discussions next year, early next year, as we talk about, what do people think about CAFO setbacks or wind towers or whatever. And then at noon today, I'll be attending a JDAI meeting, a Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative meeting. And so that's as you remember, last week we approved or was it 2 weeks ago? In the past couple weeks, we approved the memorandum of understanding, and so to set up that working group. But we're starting to function now, and that's taking place at Watertown High School at noon. So.
Okay, thank you. Yesterday at the Planning and Zoning meeting, we had a chance to review the survey was sent out to all of the livestock producers in the county with a very, very good response. We had about 50% response to the survey sent out. and we were able to gather a lot of good information, and that information was distributed yesterday at that meeting, and we're look forward to it. As I'll just echo what Lee said, the other survey that's online right now, at this point in time, there's been very few that have responded to that, and we would like people to take note of that and respond. And that would be in addition to the small acreages, wind farms, and we will be addressing all of these issues here in the next few months. All right, anything else for the open?
The only thing I have is our Christmas potluck that very possibly there's going to be a quorum of us at, which is in the Director of Equalization office. That's all I have. I don't know if anybody else has anything that there may be a quorum.
One thing on the survey, Mr. Chairman, so that's on the cottington.org, it's right, this link's right here. So there's you can't see the picture for some reason, but it's right there on the front page of the county's website. So,
Lee, do you have another CJAC meeting set up?
oh yeah, that is the next one is going to be in February, and I wrote that down. Hold on a second. Thanks for asking. So the architects will be back in town, just mostly to do, kind of go over the plans in detail.
February 13th.
Yeah, February 13th is the next CCJAC meeting, but the architects will be back in town on January, I want to see,
18th.
January 17th. Yeah, that's a Wednesday. So, but just to be aware of that.
All right.
So,
I have two requests for executive session. I think both would fall under number 3, legal counseling, review of communications, legal counsel regarding proposed or pending litigation or contractual matters. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to go in executive session. Motion by Hatton, second by Gable.
Mr. Chair, do you anticipate any further action after executive session?
Excuse me?
Do you anticipate any other action for the media?
I would anticipate no action after the executive session. So thank you for attending. TJ, Merry Christmas.
Thanks. Yeah,
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are in executive session. Thank you.
The courthouse hours